Good evening. I would like to call to order the November 16th, 2021 school board meeting. This evening, our invocation and pledge of allegiance are led by Member Kraus.
Thank you, Chairman. Tonight I'd like to read, it's called A Prayer for Unity, author unknown. To our universe, my fellow board members, and the community, we invite your wisdom, grace, and good wishes to preside over this meeting. Even if we have different opinions, give us unity of spirit, help us to each listen politely as others share their points of view, help us to work as a unified team in combining ideas for a great outcome. Help us to work as a whole rather than as individuals, trying to promote their own agendas. May we have a spirit of camaraderie in this room and work together on our shared mission of preparing and protecting our children, teachers, and staff. Thank you for bringing us together. In this time of Thanksgiving, be intent and observant of others. Look for those who may not have a family to spend time with at Thanksgiving. Let it be a season of lasting memories. Thank you. If you'll please join in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Member Kraus. Let the record reflect that all 5 school board members, school board attorney, and superintendent are present this evening. As this meeting commences, please be advised that it is unlawful for any person to knowingly disrupt or interfere with the administration or functions of any school board or activity on school board property. It is the expectation that every person present or who enters this assembly will conduct themselves with civility, courtesy, and restraint. This meeting will be conducted pursuant to the district policies and procedures as they relate to order and decorum. Disruptive behavior and actions are counterproductive to the advancement of pertinent district business. Therefore, each individual is warned that failure to conduct oneself with civility and propriety may result in removal. And we thank you in advance for everyone's adherence and cooperation. Superintendent, do you have any agenda modifications?
Yes. Yes, the addendum for a good cause is marked on our electronic agenda by a green flag named addendum item. I am pulling 4 items. Pull item 2D, summer recognition, summer program recognition. Item 6BP, 21-22 school improvement plans. Item 6BQ, ESSER fund under the American Rescue Plan Act. This item will be placed on the 12-14-21 regular school board agenda. And then also pulling 11B, the instructional continuity plan, and this item was replaced with the addendum for good cause item 11D, American Rescue Plan, ESSER 3 district plan, and instructional continuity plan.
That was clear. Thank you. Board members, any agenda modifications? Member Kraus?
No modifications, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pennock?
No modifications.
Thank you. Member Calderon?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Member Sanchez?
No modifications, thank you.
Thank you. I have, for consideration, 5 possible board representations for RFP and ITN. Item 6AY, 6AZ, 6BA, 6BB, and 6BC, and I will bring these up at the appropriate time. Is there a motion to approve the agenda outline?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Superintendent, recognitions?
Yes, we will start with our Veteran of the Month. Dr. Rodriguez, please.
Board members?
Ready to go? All right, I'm here to recognize our Veteran of the Month, Seminole High School's very own Sergeant Justin Thomas. He was in the United States Marine Corps for a short time. Although in the Marine Corps for a short time, it was filled with activity. Immediately after swearing in on August of 2012, he was awarded the responsibility of guide of RSS Altamont, where he helped hundreds of future Marines train and teach them drill and general orders. On June of 2013, he was meritoriously promoted to private first class in recognition of his hard work and willingness to excel after earning his Eagle Globe and Anchor from Alpha Company in Paris Island. Shortly after this, he graduated from Combat Engineer School in Courthouse Bay, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, with high aptitude and test scores. After taking a brief period of leave, he spent the remainder of his time in the 9th ESB, 3rd MLG, where he helped to train other Marines in Camp Hansen, Okinawa, as well as Korea. He also spent some of his time as a facilities manager, keeping very accurate records. He was promoted to the rank of E5 towards the latter part of his time and honorably left the Marine Corps on 17 May 2017. Today, Sergeant Thomas works with Seminole High School in order to help maintain the facilities. He is currently earning his BA in Accounting, Finance, and Economics while offering his services as president of the Emerging Leaders for Seminole State College. He is very proud of his accomplishments, but recognizes that life is just beginning. And Justin wrote that. So what I'm going to tell you is there is no human being that works harder than that guy. That guy's a workhorse. Justin, we're proud to have you at Seminole High School, and I fully recognize that somebody will try to steal you in the near future, but while I got you, we love you. Go Noles.
Superintendent, school board members, I'd like to introduce Mark Line and Bridget Bryant, who are representing the Orlando Sports Foundation and are with us tonight in partnership with the College Football Playoff Foundation and the Extra Yard for Teachers program to present awards to last year's 2022 Teachers of the Year.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Good evening to everyone. Our fine board members, who are you in front here? Yes. Yeah, well, I wanted to thank you, first of all, tonight for honoring the people that are probably most important to our young people today, and that's the classroom teachers. And I congratulate you for honoring them in this way. I represent the Orlando Sports Foundation, and we're probably best known for the Cure Bowl, the College Cure Bowl. But really what we do is put on events to raise money for cancer research. That's our mission, to bring teams together to find a cure for cancer. But tonight we're here for, I think, a better honor. We partner with an organization called the College Football Playoffs Foundation, and they have granted us as a matching gift of $5,000, which we use to recognize and to honor these outstanding teachers in your school districts and others in Central Florida. So tonight, it's really going to be a privilege to honor the 3 teachers of the year from the elementary, the middle school, and the secondary. And with me, and I'll ask her to come up, very pleased to be able to do this on behalf of not only these 3 who are really outstanding, but for all of those at each school, I should say, throughout Seminole County. Now, it's my privilege, and we'll begin with, I'll ask her to come forward if she will, Amy High, Elementary School Teacher of the Year from Idlewild Elementary. Amy. And then will you please? Our second recipient, please come forward, Barbara Miller, Middle School Teacher of the Year. And our secondary Teacher of the Year is Clayton Donnan from Crooms Academy. Please come up, Clayton. Again, thank you a great deal for inviting us to be here tonight. It's a pleasure to be able to honor these fine teachers with a gift. And I want to remind everyone that we also, for high school senior football players, we do the Cure Classic each year, and we will invite all staff members who are cancer survivors to be our guests at that game as well. So thank you all a great deal, and thank you, board members.
Please join me in welcoming our new coordinator of Title I and Special Projects, Jason Galitsky. Jason has served as a professional educator for nearly 2 decades. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Education from Youngstown State University and his Master's of Education from National Louis University. Jason has started working at the Hernando County Schools in 2004, serving as a classroom teacher, a teacher support specialist in the Human Resources Department, the manager of professional development, and the coordinator of federal programs. Jason has joined the Seminole County Schools as coordinator of special projects in Title I. Wife Pam and son Carter are watching at home back in Hernando County. Will be joining us here shortly. Thank you so much.
evening. It is my privilege and honor to be here this evening, board members, superintendent, for Positive Behavior Support Awards for model schools this year. Positive Behavior Support is a multi-tiered system of support that provides school-wide application of evidence-based strategies to assist schools in redefining their environment. Effectively implemented, PBIS provides increases in academic performance and school-wide safety, decreases problematic behavior. SCPS partners with the University of South Florida to implement this framework for behavior. The Florida PBIS project established a recognition system that honors and celebrates effective PBIS implementation and progress and provide improving student outcomes across Florida. It's committed to quality PBIS implementation to improve outcomes for all students. The program supports schools in collecting and using that data to monitor their outcomes and guide the decision-making process. During the 2021 school year, schools were faced with a multitude of challenges to support both virtual and face-to-face learning environments in a climate that was constantly shifting. In anticipation of these challenges, the 2021 FL-PBIS model school process was redesigned and schools were recognized for their efforts to maintain and adapt their PBIS system during times of uncertainty. In this process, the project recognized schools that submitted their implementation data that were implementing Tier 1 with fidelity, and that then responded to 3 open-ended prompts to describe their PBIS efforts. Tonight, we have the privilege of recognizing 10 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, and 1 high school who have excelled and therefore achieved this statewide recognition. So congratulations to all our 2021 PBIS Resilience Award winners. Carillon Elementary, Crystal Lake Elementary, Evans Elementary, Hamilton Elementary, Heathrow Elementary, Pinecrest Elementary, Rainbow Elementary, Redbud Elementary, Sterling Park Elementary, Wilson Elementary, Greenwood Lakes Middle School, Millennium Middle School, South Seminole Academy, and Winter Springs High School. For the 21-22 school year, we have a new PBIS district coordinator, Ms. Jennifer Smith. Thank you.
We're ready for focus. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair Allman, board members, Superintendent Beeman. Mr. Jensen and Ms. Faison and I are pleased to talk about elements of required instruction and both in statute and in State Board of Education rule. Tonight we're going to review our statutory obligations related to required instruction in grades K through 12. Throughout the year, board members and superintendent, you've received questions and comments related to our curriculum as a school district, and we want to talk through the district's approach on these topics. So I'm going to and Mr. Jensen is going to talk about how the process occurs at the district level, and then Ms. Faison is going to discuss curriculum implementation and monitoring at the school level. We're going to begin again with a little bit of a reference to statute. We'll start at 1003.41. This is the first of two key statutes related to curriculum and instruction. 1003.41 establishes the concept of state standards, and those standards establish the core content of the curricula to be taught in the state, and they specify the core content, knowledge, and skills that K-12 public school students are expected to acquire. The standards as a whole in Florida law are currently referenced as Next Generation Sunshine State Standards, but the statute bestows in the Commissioner of Education and the State Board of Education the authority to periodically revise those standards. And as you're aware, in 2019, Governor DeSantis issued an executive order charting a course for new standards in Florida, and we've previously presented on these, but again, we are in the process of transitioning to Florida's best standards or benchmarks for excellent student thinking, and we are currently on track to be fully implemented in K through 12 math and English language arts for 21-22, and then we'll follow that up in 22-23 with new standards in K through 12 social studies. Closely related to the standards statute is 1003.42, is commonly referenced as the required instruction statute. So in addition to giving the state board authority to establish and revise specific standards, the legislature has identified that regardless of what's in the standard must be covered in school district instructional plans and ultimately by classroom teachers, by our instructional staff. This list of topics is in statute, so you have to have bills passed and governor's signature to add to the list or modify it, and we have seen efforts almost every year to make adjustments to the list. So whether it's a wording change or a topic added or modified, this is an area where we're continuously updating curriculum. And again, these topics are not necessarily tied to a course. So this next slide contains a current summary of the 19 topics that constitute required instruction in K through 12. And there are some additional details in the statute that are not on this slide. This is just kind of a summary of the topics to remind us of what we're talking about. And as you see from the table, many of these topics are social studies and civics related, and they are designed to be taught across grade levels in a variety of courses. So, for example, many of these topics would be embedded in an American history class or a government class, but they can also be embedded in ELA and in other specific courses. So the districts have some flexibility in addition to covering the content standards to implement these. So again, 18 topics, and then the comprehensive health education topic contains some sub-bullets, and I did list those there, and I believe we'll be talking more about those later this year. So then moving from the statutory framework to the implementation level, the State Board of Education has adopted and again occasionally updated Rule 6A-1.094124 Florida Administrative Code, and that rule is currently titled Required Instruction Planning and Reporting. So it's the implementing rule for the required instruction statute. And as a district leadership team, we have two obligations under this rule in terms of reporting to the Department of Education. The first is that by December 1st of each school year, we have to submit our plan that identifies the specific courses and instructional materials that we use to cover these 19 topics. And then by July 1st, a report that is currently similarly formatted is due showing what we actually fully implemented during the prior school year. So it's a December 1 plan and a July 1 report. Perhaps of interest to the public, these plans are posted on a Florida DOE website at flrequiredinstruction.org. So if members of the public are interested in how we approach any of these topics, that information is publicly facing. There is another section in the rule, and this was updated by the State Board of Education in June and then took effect either late July or early August. And this section of the rule has gotten attention within Florida, and of course the topic of this section has been of interest nationally. And this is a case where the rule text is really important, so I'll ask for your forgiveness as I read verbatim from the rule, just so that we're clear. Instruction on the required topics must be factual and objective and may not suppress or distort significant historical events such as the Holocaust, slavery, the Civil War and Reconstruction, the Civil Rights Movement, and the contributions of women, African Americans, and Hispanic people to our country as already provided in Section 1003.42, paren 2, Florida statute. Examples of theories that distort historical events and are inconsistent with state board-approved standards include the denial or minimization of the Holocaust and the teaching of critical race theory, meaning the theory that racism is not merely the product of prejudice, but that racism is embedded in American society and its legal systems in order to uphold the supremacy of white persons. Instruction may not utilize material from the 1619 Project and may not define American history as something other than the creation of a new nation based largely on universal principles stated in the Declaration of Independence. Instruction must include the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and subsequent amendments. So the text of the rule draws both from the implementing statute and from the list of required instruction topics, but then clearly identifies some areas where school districts may no longer go. So focusing in a little bit more on this piece, again, in the news media, there's been quite a few stories about critical race theory, and we've heard it nationally. And one important note is that ultimately states and school districts are working with different language. And so sometimes when we read reports about something happening in one state, Florida's language may be different from that state. And that's an important nuance as people look at national media stories. The bottom line, as we have discussed before in this meeting and at work sessions, is that SCPS is in compliance with this rule. We were in compliance before because critical race theory was never part of the standards. And we're in compliance now because it's prohibited and we are a district that follows the rules. And so we are operating consistent with that rule. Our instructional frameworks define American history consistent with the definition that's provided. And our instructional materials that are adopted at the district level do not contain references to critical race theory as defined in the State Board of Education rule. Often in these stories, what's lost is again, the definition. So we are going to teach about the civil rights movement. We are going to teach about racism. We're not going to teach about it in the way that's prohibited by the State Board, nor did we do. So a related issue is that some of the language in this dialogue is becoming connected, in some cases inaccurately. And specifically, the dialogue over critical race theory has spilled over, and we're starting to hear concerns about use of the term equity. And I think it's important that we talk about equity in the context of the historical work that's been done in our school district and our community. Specifically, Seminole County Public Schools began its excellence and equity journey in 1995 when the school board at that time committed to a then years-long process of earning unitary school system status. At that time, the board directed the superintendent to take all steps necessary to secure a unitary status designation. 11 years later, in March 2006, the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Florida declared SCPS to have eliminated the vestiges of its dual school system and released the district from further supervision by the federal court system. In its opinion, the court wrote, and I'm going to read verbatim from that opinion, quote, the district has also demonstrated that it can be trusted not to return to its segregated past by its consistent compliance with the orders of the court and through its ongoing good faith efforts to ensure educational equity and the preservation of the progress the district has achieved. The district is committed to ensuring that all Seminole County school children will continue to enjoy equal educational opportunities in district schools after unitary status. So again, that's from 2006. Since then, the school district has continued to meet its commitment to operating a school district that provides a quality education for all students. In our district, educational equity is for all students. It's about meeting students where they are and providing them with the differentiated resources and supports that they need in order to be successful. And through these differentiated initiatives and supports, we can continue to address persistent and challenging problems that plague districts across the country, including achievement gaps and chronic absenteeism. Educational equity is embedded in your school board policy, currently policy 2131, which was first adopted by the school board in 2003. And you'll notice the language from the policy, which is on the slide, references, just in the preamble, every student or all students 4 different times, making the intent of the policy and the intent of our work very clear. Equity is also a policy that is included in the board's strategic plan, and that language has been in place largely unchanged since 2003. And the current focus under that equity priority is consistency and expectations for all students, meaning that we have high expectations for all students, regardless of their background, and we want all students to be successful. We want to have diverse student bodies and faculties, and we want to recruit and retain the highest quality teachers in all of our schools, but especially in our schools with the highest percentages of economically disadvantaged students. So again, equity has been embedded both in board policy and in the strategic plan for decades now, and that work continues. Related, we've also recently heard in media reports connections between critical race theory and the phrase social emotional learning. Social emotional learning is a concept that is really, there's a group of organizations nationwide that support this concept, and their definitions can vary slightly, and there's not a universally accepted definition, but I just provided 2 of the more well-known organizations on the slide and a graphic from one of them. The common element in approaches to social emotional learning is providing an educational experience that allows all students to develop the skills that they're going to need for success, both in the classroom while they're in K through 12 and after graduation in college and career and in citizenship. And in particular, our work around social emotional learning speaks to helping students learn how to work collaboratively and communicate with each other, both academically and socially. And these are key skills that our workforce, employers in this community have identified as necessary for success. And so, again, although we hear about social emotional learning and what is this and what are students being taught, the answer in Seminole County is that it's aligned to our core work. It's aligned to this board's mission statement. It's aligned to your System Initiative D, Conditions for Learning, which speaks to how we make sure that when students come into class and sit down, that they have everything they need to learn and advance in their education. And finally, there are multiple SEL concepts embedded in the Skills for Future Ready Graduates model, which was adopted by the district in 2013. And again, here we speak to the importance of learning communication and interpersonal skills and self-awareness and adaptability as critical to being a productive citizen and successful in our global economy. And so these are the core pieces of social emotional. wanted to just take a moment to try to clarify some of these pieces so that it's very clear to our community what we believe in and why we're doing the work that we're doing, regardless of what may be reported elsewhere. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Mr. Jensen, and he's going to walk you through the district's approach to reviewing curriculum and instruction.
So thank you, Dr. Weissong. As the Director of Teaching and Learning, I would like to share how our curriculum and instruction in Seminole County classrooms is aligned to our required instruction requirements and some of the considerations that Dr. Weissong has presented to you. As you know, we are currently transitioning to the BEST standards. And as part of that transition of adopting new standards, we're in the process of adopting a new core instructional tool for the district. So that core instructional tool, most people would recognize it as like the textbook in the classroom, but it also is the ancillary materials that come with it, the digital curriculum, all of that core instructional tool that teachers use to drive instruction in the classroom. Those materials are adopted on a cycle and on a schedule that's provided by the state, and we follow that schedule as we plan for annual adoptions of our various instructional products. In fall of this year, so currently, we've been going through an English Language Arts K through 12 process and a World Languages process. And then in the spring, we'll be going through a Mathematics K through 12 process so that our teachers have the curriculum they need to start the school year fully aligned to the BEST standards. The process we go through in order to adopt these materials is really driven by all the constituencies in Seminole County. So we ask teachers from all of our schools to come and spend several days with our coordinator of instructional projects. We have a administrative representative that participates. We have a parent representative that participates. And we have district representation from our various departments as well to make sure that our ESE and ESOL populations are represented in the processes as well. And they go through an incredibly rigorous process where they evaluate the materials, their alignment to state standards, their utility in meeting the instructional goals of our students, and through a series of different evaluations of all of the products that are available, they come to an ultimate recommendation that then is eventually presented to you for consideration to adopt as our new core tool of instruction. And those are the processes that are going on now. I think one really important consideration about this process is, one, how rigorous the vetting process is from all of our constituencies, but also that those instructional materials must be from the state-adopted instructional materials list. So before we ever begin vetting those materials, the Department of Education, the Florida Department of Education, has vetted those materials rigorously as well and created a guide for districts showing the state's belief in their alignment to the state standards and their appropriateness for instruction. So not only are those materials vetted by us, but they're also vetted by the state of Florida so we can ensure they are truly high quality and appropriate for Seminole County classrooms. To supplement that core tool of instruction, because we know that textbook and that curriculum isn't enough for our teachers and students, we provide a district instructional frameworks, or the curriculum frameworks. This is the district-developed K through 12 program of instruction that aligns the core tool with supplemental resources and best practices in instructional planning and delivery to make sure that our students have a high-quality learning environment every day and our teachers have all the tools they need to successfully plan. Those are also created by Seminole County teachers and district experts. So our teachers serve as lesson writers and consultants. They generate that and work in teams across schools to develop lessons and content, which is then vetted by our district content area experts, our curriculum coordinators, and eventually me. And all of that eventually ends up into that district instructional frameworks. Teachers access it through their Clever portal, and we also continually revise it based on teacher and student feedback. So as we find better resources, as we see opportunities for improvement, we're always revising that based on the feedback of our stakeholders. I also think it's really important to to point out that classroom teachers also have professional discretion to incorporate ancillary materials into their practice. So all of our classrooms are unique contexts, our schools have unique contexts, and teachers can use their professional judgment to select materials that they feel best teach the Florida standards, are standards aligned, and will generate high quality outcomes for their students and complement our core instructional program in Seminole County. Oftentimes, and Ms. Faison will talk about this in a minute, when these are used by grade levels at a school, they're kind of collaboratively designed by grade level or course level PLCs, shared amongst teachers, and also seen by the administrative staff of the schools. As the required instruction rule was amended and revised leading into this school year, we thought it was really important that our teachers and our school administrators understood the new requirements and obligations that rule presented. We wanted to make sure that all of our teachers are fully informed and understand their instructional requirements annually. So unique to this year, we presented them with a memo that outlined the changes to that rule and provided them with guidance in selecting resources and using the frameworks to ensure that they were fully in compliance with that rule. We really do this every year because as part of our instructional frameworks in Seminole County, all of those required instructional topics that Dr. Weissong identified on that slide that are outlined in statute, we identify those in the frameworks and have unique lessons and resources for teachers to use to integrate those into their instructional practice. And so really, this is no different. This is just, again, us providing teachers clear guidance on what their kind of the state's instructional expectations are so that they can adhere to our state standards and our required instructional requirements. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Faison, who can talk about what we do at the school level regarding required instruction.
My microphone, is it on? Can you all hear me? Right, so we have specific measures in place to ensure that school administrators and teachers are informed of the state required instruction and the expectations to teach the curricula which has been embedded in our district framework. So annually, all school-based administrators complete required training that is facilitated by the Human Resources Department prior to the start of the school year. That training includes a discussion of the required content, and we are expected to deliver that training to our teachers and school support staff during our pre-planning time. During that presentation, we are referencing our 2021 or the current year's staff handbook, which again references the required instruction and specifically the prohibited topics that have been given to us by Florida Department of Education. At the conclusion of those trainings, we do have our staff complete the SCPS Form 1359, which is our acknowledgement of staff conduct and responsibilities. And by signing that form, our teachers are stating that they have participated in the training, that they have been informed of our policies and the expectations to teach the required curriculum, and we are able to ensure that everyone has received those materials and that they are aware of the required instruction. Another level of school review of curriculum and instruction is through our weekly submission of classroom lesson plans, which are submitted to our school administrators, which they are reviewing again to make sure that the content is aligned to the standards and that the tasks that are assigned are also on point for getting our kids to end of year. We also conduct regular classroom walkthroughs, and we're listening to what is happening in the classroom, what students are learning, and seeing what is on our common boards to make sure, again, that they are aligned to the required instruction and to the state standards. Our teachers also participate in professional learning communities, which our administrators are a part of, and again, that is another level of discussion and planning for, again, making sure that our kids are getting state-aligned deliver lessons, and along with just making sure that we are on the same page with, again, delivering required instruction that is aligned to the standard. And in the next part, we highly encourage any parent, students, community members who have concerns about instructional materials or classroom content to reach directly out to the school. The best person to be able to really answer those questions is the classroom teacher, because they can provide the context of how those materials were used, how they are aligned to the state standards, how they're aligned to the district's curriculum frameworks, and really provide that feedback and that insight to anyone who has any questions about a specific lesson or material that is in question. And so we do, again, ask for the first point of contact to be at the school level, either with the classroom teacher or the school principal. And school principals do have the authority to make decisions about the appropriateness of materials that are included in the school, which includes some of the ancillary materials that state-aligned, standards-aligned lessons. And if at that point, if parents or community members still have questions, again, we will then engage with the appropriate assistant superintendent, human resources if necessary, and our Department of Teaching and Learning to, again, address any concerns about the appropriateness of.
Does that conclude your presentation? Thank you very much. Member Sanchez?
Yes, thank you so much. I have a question. First, I'll go with Dr. Weissong, since she went first. Thank you for the presentation, and I know there's a lot of people with the social emotional learning and the confusion, and I appreciate you explaining that. Of course, it's high on my radar, as well as many others, of making sure that we do the development of character development and mental health, and making sure that not just our students, but we collaboratively work together with our teachers and all faculty members to help with their interpersonal skills, communication, and so on and so forth. How are we going to go about making sure that they are able to juggle all these things and be able to, talking over, listening to, with the adoption and being in the classroom myself, it's a lot. And our teachers are struggling and they're exhausted with all the different PLCs and trainings and trying to meet with their tier kids and trying to meet with their parents. It's just, there's not enough hours in the day. And our guidance counselors, same thing.
Member Sanchez, I think that that is one of the major challenges right now of being a classroom teacher or a non-classroom instructional support personnel is how to get it all done. And certainly, we've all experienced each year additional mandates and initiatives, and in some cases, for example, computer science, we were out in front of it, and so it's a quick, check off. In other cases, we're adding. Adding. And I think that, one of the keys, is our renewed focus on the professional learning community, right? Shouldn't feel like you're completely on an island and isolated, that you have the support structure of a grade level team, and that sometimes you need that support from a colleague, or you need to be able to divide up the work. And then the other key piece is, and we all know that principal effectiveness is one of the most important differentiators of the performance of a school. And having visionary principals who can look at this and say, okay, here's how we're going to ensure that all of this gets done. Here we're going to do it a certain way. We're going to tap these resources that are available in our school community, to help us get these things done, I think is important. And that's why it can't all happen from this building. It has to address the individual, unique challenge. So I think all of those things really are working together, but you're certainly right that our teachers have a lot on their plates.
Oh, thank you. And it's true. I mean, like collaborating and celebrating together, or working as teams, and are picking and choosing what works best for you, and not feeling that you have to cover every single thing in a new book or a new curriculum, that you have to pick and choose what works best for you. So thank you.
And I'll just add, our assistant superintendents have been working with our school leadership teams on this notion of what's happening in the classroom, how is that aligned to standards, and is it as rigorous as it can be? Because if you have that high rigor approach and your work is tightly aligned and your instruction tightly aligned to the standards, you can be more efficient. And hope is that by working with our school teams, they will then be able to coach our teachers, to help them balance all of these things they're dealing with.
And then also, I know you had mentioned, checking out different websites and things like that, making sure that they're all smooth, and, we're always going to have glitches here and there of things that should not be on there, but things have been taken care of in those areas, correct? Thank you.
Thank you for a great presentation. Very much.
Madam Chair, may I ask a
Member
question?
Krause.
I personally think it would be helpful to have an example of what the social emotional care. It used to be, when my kids went to school, it was called Keys to Your Character, and it was being responsible and being kind, and so that was all a picture or a piece of the picture. But I think it might, if we could ask maybe for another time, a presentation on what does SEL look like at the elementary school? What does it look like in the middle school? What does it look like in the high school? Because I know it's different curriculum, and maybe just a simple example would be helpful, because I think, like you said, the terminology has gotten misconstrued, and this has been around a long time, character development and collaboration. We've been doing this for a while now. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Member Sanchez.
Mr. Jensen, I know you were talking about the Sunshine State standards and making sure our instructional materials are aligned with everything and stuff. With the new adoptions and everything like that, you had mentioned that our teachers and, we have collaborative group of people that are looking over the materials and coming in, and I'm sure you picked primary and intermediate in the elementary, and then, of course, as they get up in grade level, different ones. That kit then goes back to the schools, am I correct? For the teachers to preview it and look at it before the adoption series, so this way they look at all the different kits and they share them and look at the consumables, and this way then they can rate it from there. Is that still the process?
Yes. What happens is a school identifies who their representative is going to be
Right.
for a level or subject area, and then we post publicly access to the digital material, so teachers can preview the textbook online, they
So
can
now it's
preview
digital.
the ancillary
Okay.
materials, the digital materials. The teachers at the school have the ability to preview that, provide their representative with feedback around, their thinking around the efficacy of different materials, and then their representative brings that to the committee when the committee convenes.
And is there a way we can preview some of it? I'd like to look at the, our ESE and ESOL, as well as some of the other areas and some of the books that align with it that may be part of reader theaters or literature novels.
Absolutely. So not just the board, but any member of the public can preview our instructional materials for adoption. So if you go to the instructional materials section of the SCPS website.
And that's on the website?
Absolutely. Any
Perfect.
member of the public can log into any of the materials under consideration or the ones that have been selected by the committee for recommendation and preview what they look like.
Awesome. And they're all aligned now. I mean, I know with the Common Core going out, but yet we still have some of those strings still attached. That's not there, right?
The state has been very aggressive in ensuring that our new instructional materials are tightly aligned to Florida's best standards, to the extent to which, unlike in previous adoptions, we've received a table from the state with data about the alignment of each instructional material specifically to best, and then our team underwent that same process to ensure it's aligned to the best standards and no other standards.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any comments or anything you want to bring up? Member Krause?
No,
Thank you. Vice Chair Pennock?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Member Calderon?
I was going to make a comment to say thank you to all the parents who have reached out to all of us in recent days about some incidents that have occurred on school campuses, and I do know we're going to be addressing it under superintendent's report, so I wanted to let the public know.
Thank you. Member Sanchez?
Basically the same thing. Thank you for everybody reaching out. With your concerns, please feel free to continue reaching out to us. We value your input, and we value our teachers as well as all of our faculty. It's extremely important for you to share with us so we can help as much as possible. So thank you.
Thank you. And board members, there are 5 committees looking for representation. If you have an interest, you do not have to serve. First one is 6AY, RFP for district network ring equipment, something with technology. Any takers? Thank you. That's okay. The second one is 6AZ, RFP for enterprise resource planning solution for internal accounts. Any interest?
Interested?
Amy, thank you.
Shocking.
6BA, RFP for consultants for procurement, project management, and related services.
I'd be happy to serve on that.
Thank you. 4 is 6BB, RFP for temporary staffing services.
I was hoping for the sign language.
I'll do the
I could do
temporary
BB.
staffing.
Okay, thank you. All set with that. Thank you very much. Superintendent, the last one. Christine took the sign language. I can give you this if you need it. Do you have anything you'd like to share?
In the report.
Okay.
Yes.
What I know, it's eat.
Thank you. Vice Chair, please read the public input statement.
Public comment related to education, the board agenda, and the district are welcome and encouraged. The public comment opportunity is not, however, an open forum to discuss matters unrelated to education, to support or oppose candidates for public office, or to engage in commercial speech attempting to sell a service or product to the board or the public. Also, public comment is not a forum to engage in personal attacks against school system employees or board members. To maintain orderly conduct, the public comment segment of this meeting may not be used for any other purposes, including presentations of political and/or campaign issues, matters involving disciplinary actions, pending employee disciplinary matters, or pending claims, complaints, or litigation against the district or district personnel. Participants are required to engage in meaningful but civil communications. The presiding officer of the board and/or parliamentarian may order the removal of any person interfering with the expeditious or orderly process of such meeting, provided such officer has first issued a warning that continued interference with the orderly process of the meeting will result in removal. All statements shall be directed at the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Each statement made by a member of the public will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. A designated group representative will have a maximum of 6 minutes. No speaker may yield his or her time to any other person. This policy does not prohibit the board from maintaining orderly conduct or proper decorum in a public meeting.
Thank you. The first speaker is Ed Meeson, followed by Mark Capro and Frank Hunt. Good evening.
Good evening. Ed Meeson, Winter Park. I spoke on the topic of patriotism in our last meeting. One of the examples of patriotism mentioned was George Washington's order to the Continental Army to get smallpox inoculations. If you remember, patriotism is defined as sacrificing for one's country. We just celebrated Veterans Day. We honor a veteran at every one of these meetings. They're shining examples of sacrifice, and that's what makes America great. My effort was to draw some parallels between smallpox and COVID. I never suggested that smallpox was the same as COVID, but there are lessons to be learned. It was pointed out later in that meeting that the death rate from smallpox was 1/3 and COVID was only 2%. The implication being that since I was wrong on this fact, everything else I said was not credible. More shockingly, an assertion was made that a 2% death rate was completely acceptable. One of the precepts I live my life by is Ronald Reagan's saying, trust but verify. Well, I looked it up using trusted sources, cross-checking, applying critical thinking skills that I learned in public schools. Turns out that it is a historical fact that George Washington did issue the order that, for the Army to get smallpox vaccination, or inoculation, sorry. The Americans did defeat the British later that year at the Battle of Saratoga, as I said, and most historians indicate that this was the turning point in the war, and that the inoculation program initiated by George Washington was credited as being one of the key factors in the victory that ultimately resulted in the birth of this nation. Yes, smallpox was deadly to a third of those that contracted the disease, and COVID only about 2%. I never indicated otherwise. I was not trying to build a bridge to the 18th century. And why someone would be willing to add 2% chance of dying is beyond me. Nevertheless, there are some strong parallels. Both are viruses, both are highly communicable, both were widespread amongst the world population, both have long-term effects, both can be controlled by good public health measures such as proper hygiene, social distancing, etc. Both now have vaccines. Smallpox was declared eradicated in 1977, 200 years after George Washington's order. Hopefully, we've learned some lessons from our experience with smallpox, and the eradication of COVID will be even shorter. However, this will depend on how patriotic we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Madam Superintendent, and members of the board. My name is Dr. Mark Capro. I am a graduate of the Seminole County School System, and I have 3 children in the schools, 2 of whom are currently enrolled at Oviedo High School. I'm submitting these comments to you in writing as well for your review later if you'd like, but I'd like to address the events that occurred on the evening of November 6, 2021 at the Oviedo High School homecoming dance. First, I would like to express sincere gratitude and admiration for the first responders. Without their intervention, our children would have been at far greater risk. While I'm very grateful that no one was physically injured, I have some real concerns about the encounter itself and would hope to share those concerns with you. My daughters were informed to evacuate, not by a law enforcement officer, an administrator, or a staff member, but by other students shouting messages. They were sent into an erupting panic, unsupervised, with concerns of a gun on campus. The rumors encouraged people to avoid the front of the school, and my children, with many others, were faced with defeating fencing to evacuate from a secure secondary location to leave the campus, as well as the challenge of running down dark streets with no appointed meeting or muster location. As the communications from the Oviedo Police Department revealed, the incident occurred in the back of the campus, and apparently in part outside of the fencing barrier in place for single-point entry. The panicked evacuation may have actually placed students at greater risk than sheltering them in place by having them breach a barrier, deal with traffic and poorly lit roads, and potentially moving towards an altercation. If this same event had occurred at noon on a school day, I'm certain it would have gone differently. And this should stand out to leadership in this room that the lack of injury to our students was just as much the result of luck as it was of planning. The onus is now on you to consider the following and ensure that follow-up occurs to learn from this event. Specifically, what could have been done to have made this episode and the evacuation safer and more orderly? Are the current policies for staffing ratios, supervision, and emergent communication at after-school events sufficient? What role and training should or could volunteer dividends have to augment the staff at these events, particularly because they're often present? While single entrance is clearly needed, single egress creates a risk of trampling and other injuries. We've seen this time and again at concerts and at other venues. Is there a role for alarm delay exits for emergency egress to ensure safety? If not, what other strategies are available to mitigate the risks associated with an evacuation without compromising security? Should students have off-campus muster points that are prearranged to facilitate reunification and recovery? And how is an emergency communicated during these events to all students, even those who may not be carrying a phone? I stress that the analysis of this event, like any root cause analysis, should focus on building on the successes of the current policies while critically analyzing the potential safety gaps for extracurricular activities. In short, while the community is happy that no one was hurt, without a process to learn from and improve upon this event, we cannot expect that this luck in the future will keep our children safe.
Time, Mr. Capro.
Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hunt, then Kenneth Bentley, then Deborah Donahue.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak again. I'd like to thank all the board members personally for addressing and talking to a lot of us personally, and so we could address our concerns to each of you individually. I would like to set the record straight. Someone inferred that I was an outsider. I have a number of kids that went through Bear Lake Elementary, Teague Middle School, and Lake Brantley High School, and I have several grandkids presently in Lake Brantley High School and Teague Middle School, so I'm not an outsider. And having taught in Orange County schools many years ago, I really don't want to see Seminole County go the route Orange County has gone, so that's my concern. I want a couple of policy things since you're looking at policy. Once again, I would hope that you would strike your unconstitutional policy that not being able to address members individually or about their official actions or statements, as it is in contradiction to our U.S. Constitution and constitutional law. I also, in policy 0165, you have prohibiting violent, threatening, and aggressive behavior. Now, threatening and violent talk is not acceptable, but the word aggressive is open to interpretation. Some people might think that criticism of a school board member is aggressive when it's protected public speech. So I would ask you to look at that word aggressive and take it out, because there's no meaning of what aggressive is. And I would just like to conclude, the gentleman on vaccines, there's no comparison between the COVID jab shot that we have now that is unproven and is killing more people than it's helping at the moment, and the smallpox vaccines of earlier who did prove to be effective because they had been proven and had used and they were effective. The COVID shot now, even the manufacturers admit that that's not a vaccine. It's an mRNA shot and claims a lot of stuff, so there's no comparison between the two. But I appreciate your time and being able to talk to you about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
Good afternoon, Ms. Beeman and board members and the attorney. Once again, I'd like to come before you all and say thank you. I heard a little rumor, I think it's true, and I'm gonna stay the whole meeting to make sure it's true, that Ms. Ingrid Burden Nathan is gonna be honored tonight. And Ms. Ingrid Burden Nathan, once again, in 1963, gave up the ultimate price. She gave up her childhood. And this board and this cabinet tonight is going to do something that says thank you. So once again, on behalf of the Barbershop Conversation and Goldsboro Front Porch and the community of Seminole County in the state of Florida, thank you. Thank you and thank you. Now, back to regular Mr. Bentley. We need African American history, African American studies in middle and high school mandatory. Black history, African American studies, the same black history that I had, Mr. Nathan had, Mrs. Nathan had, Dr. Williams had, Dr. Barbara Kirby Bentley had, that black history. And also the black history that Ingrid Burden Nathan is gonna make tonight. We want that in the Seminole County Public Schools. Also, I know you've been meeting with the city of Sanford and county officials on broadband. We got to get broadband to these communities that are underserved. And remember what I said, underserved. I didn't say African American. I said underserved. We want it for everybody. Broadband, black history. Thank you again for Ms. Ingrid Burden Nathan. And 2021 has been a year. I wouldn't want to wear the shoes that you've worn this year, and I wouldn't want to have the emails that you had this year. But what I want to do tonight is put on a different hat. I'm going to take off the Barbershop Conversation hat. I'm going to take off the Goldsboro Front Porch hat. I'm going to put on the Community Advocate hat. We have a meeting this Thursday. It's the East-West Side meeting, and it's the fourth Thursday of every month, but we moved it up to the third Thursday because of Thanksgiving next week. The meeting is from 6 to 7 at the Dr. Velma Hayes Williams Community Center across the street from your greatest high school, Crooms. The commissioner for District 2 is one of your employees, Carrie Wiggins. The meeting is from 6 to 7, and then we're going to have a Thanksgiving dinner from 7 to 8. you all are invited to the Thanksgiving dinner. The superintendent, the board members, and the attorney. Ms. Jill, we got a plate for you too. Also, on January 17th, I don't want to hear no. I want the superintendent, MLK committee wants the superintendent, the 5 board members, and the attorney, and Ms. Jill to be in the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. parade that starts at 10 a.m. at Crooms on January 17th. It's a Monday, and Dr. King said a day on, not a day off. We want you in that parade, and also the grand marshal of this year's parade is your state championship team, Seminole High School football team. That's the grand marshals. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and give the invite for Thursday, the MLK parade, so nobody behind that diocese can say they didn't know anything about it. And we're going to get Sarah back together. We're going to forget 2021, raise your hand, 2022.
Deborah Donahue, Fred Larson, Jessica Tillman.
I hate having to go after you.
Nobody does, right?
Hey, school board. Hey, superintendent. My name is Deborah Donahue, and I am here to talk to you about a much more serious issue. I am speaking to you as a graduate student at Florida State University. Ms. Allman and I had a conversation a couple months ago about my dissertation topic. I am actually doing a very unfortunate topic. I'm talking about teacher morale in the pandemic. So just kind of giving you a little bit of preview about some of the research I'm doing. Oh, I'm nervous. I do not like talking in front of adults. I have taught public school for 30 years, but speaking in front of a room full of adults is really hard. Currently, there are 5,000 teacher vacancies in the state of Florida. So we are plagued by a high number of vacancies. That's a 67% increase from August 2020 to August 2021. In January 2020, those vacancies were already higher, about 10% from the previous year. So we were already in a teacher shortage in the state of Florida prior to the pandemic. And in January 2020, we had 2,440 vacancies in the state. Why does it matter? In Florida, it's become a question of equity. The populations that have the greatest problems with equity have the greatest problems with teacher turnover. High poverty, high minority, urban and rural schools are impacted at a greater number than any other populations. Ingersoll 2018, Vail explained in 2005, the price of high turnover is enormous in the terms of money, productivity, and teacher morale. So, Orange County statistics from last year, I don't have current Seminole County, but I would be happy to update this if I do get them. In July 2020 in Orange, there were 105 resignations. In July 2021, there were 227. That's indicative of a growing problem. You know, August, there were actually fewer in 2021 this year than there were in 2020. September was a wash, about the same. November's scary. In 1 week in November, there were 44. In last school year, there were 54. A concerning trend in 2020, almost a third of teachers were considering leaving the profession. 85% of teachers in November of 2020 were reporting that morale was a problem within their school. 75% of all teachers were reporting that they had an issue with morale. One of the teachers that I interviewed for this project said, the biggest problem that she feels like is leadership isn't listening. And I feel like, Ms. Sanchez, you addressed that. You know, when you were talking to them, when they were talking about programs, leadership.
Your time is up. If you have additional comments, if you would email them to us, that would be great.
I would love to, yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with your paper.
Thank you.
Good evening.
I'll be short, so just, if you can have some of my time if I'm, Hey, my name is Fred Larson, and I want to first thank you all for your kindness and your warm welcome when I attended last month's meeting. I appreciate it. It felt good. I'm here to talk to you about these standards that were presented tonight, and I want to thank you for everybody who worked so hard to bring sanity back to public education. I really am excited about what this work is going to produce in terms of impacting positively for our children across the district. I talked briefly last month about that fiasco with the National School Board Association. And what's come out since then is, in fact, that the two people with the leadership of that group got in bed with some Marxists in the current administration and came up with this notion that people that look like me, people that look like you, are potential domestic terrorists. And the Justice Department, frankly, sent out a memo, and they haven't rescinded it, nor have they commented on, yeah, it was all kind of a scam. And, so I'm here to tell you that, and nor do I believe anybody in this room is. But that brings me to the point of tonight. It was wonderful to see that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are part of these standards. And I think that, I'm sure that constitutional illiteracy amongst the American people is a big, big problem. The reason being is folks don't know what their rights are, even when they shake their fists and say, I've got rights. If they don't know what they are, maybe they don't. On the other hand, there are those that take advantage of lack of understanding to push through laws that are absolutely insane and at the very least completely unconstitutional. So this book here, I'm not selling it, the National Archives through the government printing office will provide copies of the Constitution and Bill of Rights for about the cost of mailing. Every student, every employee, every citizen in Seminole County could put their hands on one of these. Someone put an order in, or you just simply, made a request online for your individual copy. As far as history, social studies, English, a whole host, a cross-section of the curriculum, K through 12, could be taught in the context of the Constitution, the people that wrote it, and the Bill of Rights, and the ensuing amendments to the Constitution. There's a lot of talk about, understanding slavery in America. Well, the evolution of the Constitution is, speaks directly to it, and those seminal points, those amendments that are passed that ultimately did away with it and provided suffrage for all Americans, they're right here in the Constitution. So,
it's your time. Thank you very much. I understand.
Thank you so very much. Again, y'all are fantastic, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. Jessica Tillman, Joyce Stricker, and Belinda Ewan.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Tillman. I'm chapter chair for Moms for Liberty, Seminole County. I'd like to bring your attention to a lawsuit by Moms for Liberty Brevard for their unconstitutional public comment policy. They are being sued. They are suing their school district for not allowing citizens to name board members in their comments. So you may want to review that part of your public participation policy. We would also like to see COVID procedures to end. We should not have to continue to request individual procedures to be removed. The 50% capacity recommendation needs to go to full capacity. We have parents that were not allowed to join their kindergartners for Thanksgiving celebrations, but some volunteers are allowed on campus. This should be across the board, 100% parents back on campus. Directions need to be given to the schools to allow all parents back on campus for regular events. You are continuing to allow parents to miss out on moments they will never get back with their kids. We've had homecoming events canceled because of rain instead of moving into the gym. We've had kids in homecoming dresses outside in 50-degree weather instead of allowing the dance to be indoors. If Oviedo High School would have moved their dance indoors, it would have been harder to get the gun seen at the dance through the door. Instead, a student who was not allowed to be at the dance hopped a fence to get in, and the kids swear shots were fired in the air. The fear these kids showed that night is not a rumor. How much security was at this dance? How many times has this student been shifted around the district? How many times has the principal been shifted around? How many incidents do we not even know about and that have been covered up by the district? I'm sure everyone is familiar with the incident in Virginia with the kid that sexually assaulted a student after being shifted around the district for the same reason. The district tried to cover it up and denied the father to bring it up. School safety is a huge concern. Many middle schools and high schools are having weekly to daily fights so bad Lake Brantley had what the kids labeled Fight Week. Kids being arrested, a principal being beaten up, the bathrooms are being destroyed, boys are being harassed in the locker room with broomsticks. As a community, we need to pay attention to what students are doing. What can we do as a community to fix this? Our children deserve to safely go to school. We have parent volunteers ready to go into the schools and help monitor the halls. Now that parents are allowed back on campus, please consider this as an option to help. We must indeed all hang together, or most assuredly, we shall hang separately. Benjamin Franklin. Thank you.
My name is Joyce Stricker. I live in Longwood. Tonight, I would like to talk about policies regarding public comment. I do not agree with your ban on people being allowed to name individual board members, but I am a mom, and as a mom, I can adapt to anything. I want to show you that I can comply with your unconstitutional edicts and still get my point across. I want to thank the board for recognizing the importance of mental health for students. I want to thank the board for saying they do not view my friends and I as domestic terrorists. And finally, I would like to respond to the speaker who insulted former President Trump and Governor DeSantis at the last meeting. I call your energy dependence, I raise you inflation, and I'm all in with open borders, because I would take mean tweets over leaving Americans behind in Afghanistan any day. And let's face it, Make America Great Again is a much better slogan than Let's Go Brandon. Thank you.
Thank you. Belinda Ewan, Sonia Rojas, Nina Sandberg, and final speaker, Kelly Schulson.
Good evening. I'm Belinda Ewan. I'm an Oviedo resident, a taxpayer, and a parent, and I'm invested in this community. We have made the news again for all the wrong reasons, twice last week. There has been an uptick in fighting and destructive behavior in our middle schools. As an approved dividend, volunteer, and parent, I can tell you there are many parents who want to and will step up and help our teachers and staff monitoring bathrooms and hallways and after-school events. As you know, parents are role models and influencers and drive the success of our students. Utilize us. We can make a difference. We have a duty and a responsibility, and we are here to answer the call and serve the district and our community. Thank you.
Sonia Rojas. Good evening.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon. I would like to present to you Jonathan Victoriano. I'm sorry, I'm very nervous. I'm his mom. This is the first time I'm here. First, I would like to ask if any of you would go all day without eating. During work, my son has to deal with that. He has a condition called microtia atresia, which affects his, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous and I'm very passionate because he has an IEP. He is deaf in his left ear due to his microtia atresia. Now that also affects all of his other sensories, smell, taste, even the way he balances himself. Due to this, all his time in school, I have provided for him his lunch. All of his teachers have been nice enough to heat up his lunch. However, this year, out of everyone in his school, his guidance counselor caught his teacher heating up his lunch. She said no more because other kids will ask to have their lunches heated. After that, the school said they needed a note from his doctor stating why he needed his home lunch heated. I provided that. They said, no go. You need to provide specifically why from a doctor. I went to his doctors. They made a nice letter that I have here, that I have provided to the school, and that I can provide all of you with, stating that he will become malnutritioned, and he had an incident with one of his teachers in the last few weeks, saying that he's been a lot more crankier than usual, that he has been a little hostile. Obviously, if any of us go long periods of time without eating, we will all become that. He has a 501 and with an IEP, but the school doesn't want to accept that. His IEP only started 2 years ago when the IEP teacher noticed him walking through the hallways. Everyone in school knew since he started kindergarten what his condition was. All of his teachers, all of the school staff. However, none of them informed the IEP teacher that he was one of the kids that needed help or that needed to have an IEP. Now, he has been bullied in the past month.
Your time is up. If you have written comments and you want to share them, we'll have some follow-up with you, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nina Sandberg, and you need to take care of this lady. As a parent of a child who had an IEP, I'm telling you that. For over 6 years, this school district has failed to order and distribute textbooks for academic subjects. It is a crapshoot whether or not your child is going to have any kind of textbook for math, science, history, geography, literature, grammar, etc. This year, neither one of my children have any textbook for math or science because you are irresponsible and you are not doing your job. They are at 2 different schools and you did not buy textbooks for math and science for either school. This is not an A+ school district anymore. You need to make very sure that someone orders and distributes all necessary textbooks for academic subjects every single year. You have a problem that no one is ordering the textbook in paper form, online form, workbook form, or newspaper form. Teachers and students go an entire year in academic subjects with no textbook in any format due to your irresponsible management. There is no excuse. Textbooks are a basic necessity that are supposed to be ordered automatically every single year. I can provide many numerous examples of how you have sabotaged my children's educations by failing to buy textbooks, but I am pressed for time. My 4th grade child went an entire year with no textbooks at all for science and almost no written science work, no science study guides, no science vocabulary work, no science tests, and no science project. Everything that the kids learned about science came from the teacher's mouth, and the kids only learned a snapshot of 4th grade science that year. Now you are pulling the same stunt again with both of my children at the same time and in 2 academic subjects at 2 different schools for both of them at the same time. This is unacceptable. All of you should resign tonight over this one very serious issue. You are not getting the basics done here. My son asked me to help him with geometry, but I can't because you did not buy textbooks. Both of my children are having trouble in the 2 subjects that have no textbooks. I blame you. This is insane. These are academic subjects. You can't do without textbooks in the academic subjects. You must order and distribute textbooks for all academic subjects each year in some format, whether it's an online textbook, paper textbook, workbook, or newspaper textbook. You must have textbooks. By the way, the people who need to approve of your social emotional learning materials are the parents and not the teachers.
Thank you. Ms. Shilson?
Hello, I'm Kelly Shilson from Longwood. My concern here is the culture of what we're promoting and condoning in SCPS. I had the opportunity to listen to the Equity Committee. While I will say that there was some good conversation, the conversation that I felt was really great was the teacher, the principal, that actually showed that her school did well by promoting excellence and not equity. Her actual guidelines were, I expect all children to be here. It doesn't matter what their race or what their gender was. And she was able to pull her school from an almost F school to an almost A school. However, what she also said was that she was able to use paraprofessionals. But we know that all schools don't have that opportunity, as not all of them are Title I's. So she suggested that we use what she called boots on the ground, parents and volunteers. They need to be back in the school. They need to be helping. I know when I was a part of the school at Woodlands, I was one-on-one with kids every week, looking at those kids and helping those kids individually, and we don't have that. We have principals saying, we're only at 50% capacity. That's not true. That should not be true anymore. We should be back at 100%, but they're using the reopening plan as their excuse to not let in parents. And teachers are just going to have, I would think the majority of teachers would like the assistance. I've heard a lot of teachers have quit, and I'm sure that it's got to be more based on culture than anything. In the Equity Committee, there was one person put on by the superintendent who was pushing a far left agenda and promoting, her only contribution was to promote videos and books about racism. And that's not where we should go as a school. That's not what we should be promoting. Children don't need to feel like they're a victim. If they're a victim, they will never succeed no matter what their race is. So that needs to be eliminated out of the Equity Committee, and it needs to be an excellence committee, because there really were some great ideas. And I appreciated the majority of what I heard, but then there's a few people on there that are just out there for their agenda, and that's really unfortunate. Also, it seems that there are certain people that now feel emboldened to post on their social media sites that they were happy that teachers were there to learn to check their privilege and bias to better serve their students. I don't know about you, but I'm not checking any privilege. People may look at you and assume something, but that is not actually the way, and that has to stop.
Your
and
time
I
is up,
can't,
Ms. Schulson.
Okay, I'm done. I can't imagine that our uptick in violence, I don't know if it's connected, but maybe.
Your time is done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes public comment. Is there a motion to, Superintendent, you have a recommendation, please, on the consent agenda?
Yes, it's that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
moved. Second.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation for student discipline hearing disposition?
Yes, it's that the School Board of Seminole County approve the student disciplinary recommendations from October 18, 2021, October 25, 2021, and November 1, 2021.
Thank you.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. No unfinished business. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation under new business?
Yes, I do. That the School Board of Seminole County approve the naming of Building 2 at Sanford Middle School, the Ingrid Burton Nathan Hall.
Thank you. Board members, is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second. Any discussion? Very happy to honor you, Mrs. Nathan.
Ms. Nathan?
We still have to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Please join us in the front with your family.
I have to give honor to God, whom I serve, and I honor the school board and Bentley, who so campaigned for this to come to pass. I give honor to the community that embraced the idea, that this could happen to me in my lifetime. I give honor to Winifred Dorsett, who gave me up, and I was adopted and brought here to Florida. I give honor to Edna Burton and Ulysses Burton, who raised me till the age of 6. Cleo Burton, from then on, raised me until I integrated schools, age of 14. I give honor to Dr. George Stark, my godfather, who was on the biracial committee that was responsible for me integrating schools in 1964. I would tell everyone here that I did it without thinking about any consequence. I wasn't afraid. I was happy to do so. I was curious, most of all. But I was anxious to represent and repay my father for the love that he showed me. I did everything for love. And with love, I stand up here today because this represents that the community embraces the idea. It's a community effort. It's not a black effort, a white effort. It's the community that's putting me in this position. And I don't feel I deserve it, but I want to thank you very much.
We were talking earlier today, we know they're working on the lettering, and we look forward to seeing your name on the building soon. Thank you, and thank you for being here. Okay. Superintendent, you have a report.
I do. Board members, the report is included in your agenda packet. Most of it is the read-only, but I do have two items that I want to verbally talk about. One is that I'd like to take this opportunity to address the media reports and the emails from parents regarding the incidents of misconduct that on our campuses. And I guess I want to start by saying I want you to know that the vast majority of our students are meeting our expectations regarding behavior. Okay, and so for those that are not, we are appropriately addressing them under our code of conduct. But there are some events that we will need to discuss, and because we will take any and all measures that are necessary to make sure that we have orderly campuses. And for that reason, we are having a meeting on Friday, a security meeting that's been called for us to have some discussions. That's a closed meeting, but it is in regards to any measures that we need to review to address some of these events. Okay. The other thing that I did want to make clear is that our ESSER draft plan that we have talked about and the continuity plan will be available on our website on Thursday for our public to provide any comment regarding those documents. It'll go up on Thursday, will be up through December 9th at noon, and then we will be able to gather the public comment, review it, and then the actual plan will come back to the board on the 14th. That completes my report.
Thank you. To be clear, the safety meeting is closed, but that's permitted by statute.
That is correct.
To not meet in the sunshine.
That is correct.
Thank
There,
you.
under the law, there are certain exemptions, and we are meeting in regards to one of those provisions.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, if I could also add, for those who might not know, we do work collaboratively on a daily basis with the Sheriff's Office, and the City Police Captain is here tonight, and he will be participating in that meeting and has been very involved, and I'm sure that he gets all of the input that we're getting from the community members as well. So we are taking this very seriously.
Thank you. Okay, board member reports. Member Krause?
If I may start with, we have a new grandson. Oliver arrived on November 4th, healthy and robust, and congratulations, Ashley and Dustin. I attended the Children's Cabinet meeting. It's still being held virtually. Our next meeting in December will be live. They are formulating the state of the child, and so they formed 5 pillars, and I'm on the education pillar, and they're looking at services and needs for post-pandemic, so to speak. So I'm looking forward to the input from the committee on that. The Business Advisory Board, Dr. Gooch attended and presented strategies that we are using to attract and recruit and retain teachers and staff. And it was very well received by the Business Advisory Board, and thank you for attending that. And many of us attended multiple Veterans Day celebrations. It was such an honor. We started the morning at Eastbrook. There were events in Sanford on the waterfront, the evening at Lake Howell with the music. It was just beautiful. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Pennock?
I did not have any committee meetings, and you got the update on the ILA at the work session today. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Member Calderon?
All of my committee meetings are the remainder of this week, but I would like to give just a couple shout outs to congratulate the arts being so alive in Seminole County Public Schools. Since our last board meeting, we had student artwork displayed at the Great Day in the Country, Maitland's Art Festival. Obviously, Arts Alive was a great success this past weekend, and our middle school and high school honor choir concerts, I hate to admit it, but really brought a tear to my eye in that it was the first time that we could have large gatherings again, and it was really emotional to see how much not only the students enjoyed performing, but I think the families enjoyed listening as well. A shout out to our ESE department for the transition fair this weekend. I love the format of having it outside rather than inside, and all the families that were there were very engaged, and all the vendors that I spoke to said they felt they were really helping families, and that's really what we're here for at the end of the day. The Youth Summit, I congratulate all the people that worked on that. It was wonderful to get input and student voice because, as we all know, we have decisions to make, and why we value the community members that come to speak to us and email us. We see the students when we're walking through the halls, but to have them together in one space was very important. And thank you to the leadership of our PTA, and thank you for allowing me to thank, on behalf of the entire school board, our PTA and principals annual meeting. It was well attended, and I'm looking forward to some great continued partnerships. And congratulations again in a public setting. We had a private celebration for all of our National Merit Scholars here in Seminole County, but to think they're the best of the best in the nation, and we have so many scholars right here in Seminole County. It was a very proud moment, and we know it's because of the excellent teaching and leadership that we have here. And this week is a very special week, and I don't see Tina in the audience, but happy ESP week for all of our educational support personnel within our district. They truly are very, very vital to the success of this district. So that concludes my report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Member Sanchez.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Dr. Williams, for the wonderful, Arts Alive program that we had, along with everybody else that helped with Jean and Missy and all the fabulous members on the team that worked with that, as well as a high school and middle school choir that many of us had a chance to go to. Absolutely fascinating, and having our guest, I just lost my, what do I say? Thank you. From Stetson, unbelievable. I'm sorry? And UCF, okay, unbelievable. And on Arts Alive, I mean, I know that we have received a couple emails on this, and I know that they had some difficulty with some dates with the Thespian week being at the same time. I do know that some people will be reaching out to some of the emails and phone calls that we have received. So we will see what we can do to make sure that, arts are for everyone, and that all of us, take pride in making sure that all of our students and staff have the arts in their life. Volunteers in schools, I'm seeing a lot of it. I'd like the consistency, Thanksgiving feast, and if we can have football games and everybody's there, then surely we can have Thanksgiving feast with their families and students being there. And mental health being so high up and right now, please take some time over the holidays to be thankful for each other and be happy that you are spending time with your family, as many of us have lost loved ones due to many different things or COVID, that will not be sitting at our dinner tables. And also wanted to mention that, we talked about some of the wonderful art projects that we saw at all the different Oviedo in the Park and Maitland and everything like that, but don't forget about the zoo, the Central Florida Zoo. Of course, we have I'm going to hang this up, but it already started, and it's until January, but it's the Asian Lantern Festival. You have to go. If you haven't gone, you need to go, or you need to check it out on the website. Or if you don't get a chance to go to this, check out all the unbelievable things that our students can do and families can do together with the zip lining and everything else. So much to do there, and it's outside, and there's field trips that can go there as well. So please take the opportunity to do that. Also, if you don't have one of these, excuse me, I know we have them here in our choices. Thank you. Where's Kyle? Okay, oh, there you are. So anyhow, remember the choices program, magnet program things, applications are due, they're coming up. Please check out the website. Some other important information is in here too for the elementary choices programs too. It's great to visit the website as much as possible with all the updated information. Everybody have a wonderful, blessed Thanksgiving and stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Sanchez. Casper Chamber Food and Wine Festival took place a week or two ago, and we raised $3,000 dedicated to scholarships. That'll go to 2 students at Winter Springs, Lake Howell, and Lyman. So most beautiful weather, very well attended, very happy about that event. Dr. Calderon, you talked about the transition fair, and the Project Search students there were learning life skills by taking these were unstuffed animals. They would pick out your animal, they would stuff them, they'd learn how to interact with people, and they'll be selling them as another enterprise project to raise funds for their department. And they did a really great job. Kudos for these great kids. Life Changer of the Year, 3 SCPS educators have been nominated, and one of the requirements is that their names be read at a school board meeting. So they can earn up to $10,000 as a cash prize. Robin Howard, Nancy Lacasse, and Brandon Thompson, so good luck to all of you. And Oviedo High School, Cognia School of Distinction for Accreditation Engagement Review. Congratulations for that distinction. And that's all I have. If there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Board members, do you need a break? Or do you want to keep rolling? Okay, keep rolling.
Good evening, board members. I'd like to call to order the school board reorganization meeting. And first, we'll have our invocation and pledge of allegiance by Member Krause.
Yeah. So this will be a repeat. Sorry, I only prepared one. This was a prayer, excuse me, a prayer for unity, anonymous. To our universe, my fellow board members and the community, we invite your wisdom, grace, and good wishes to preside over this meeting. Even if we have different opinions, give us unity of spirit. Help us to each listen politely as others share their viewpoints. Help us to work as a unified team in combining ideas for a great outcome. Help us to work as a whole rather than as individuals trying to promote their own agendas. May we have a spirit of camaraderie in this room and work together on our shared mission of preparing and protecting our children, teachers, and staff. Thank you for bringing us together in this time of Thanksgiving. Be intent and observant of others. Look for those who may not have a family to spend time with at Thanksgiving, and let it be a season of lasting memories. Thank you. If you'll please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let the record reflect that all school board members are present. Member Allman, Member Pennick, Member Calderon, Member Krause, and Member Sanchez. Also present are School Board Attorney Carlene Cole-Palmer and Board Clerk Jill Moramis. So we will move to our first item for business, which is the election of school board chairman for 2021-2022. The floor is now open for nominations for chairman. Seconds are not needed. You may self-nominate.
I would like to nominate Karen Allman to serve as chair.
I'd like to nominate Amy Pennick.
Any more nominations? Then, we will move to a roll call vote by the clerk. Please announce the name of the board member who you favor as chairman, board members.
Member Krause.
Member Almond.
Member Pennick.
Member Pennick.
Member Calderon.
Member Pennick.
Member Sanchez.
Member Pennick.
Member Almond.
Member Pinnock.
By a 4-1 vote, Member Pennick has been elected school board chairman.
Congratulations.
Are you done?
Done. Am I smiling?
Yes, way too big.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Krause. Appreciate it.
We will move to the second course of business, which is the election of the school board vice chairman for 2021-2022. The floor is now open for nominations for vice chairman. Seconds are not needed. You may self-nominate.
I'd like to nominate Member Sanchez.
Are there any additional nominations? Hearing no additional nominations, the floor is closed for nominations for vice chairman. Madam Clerk, if you will, by roll call vote, have the vote for vice chairman.
Member Kraus.
Member Sanchez.
Member Pennick.
Member Sanchez.
Member Calderon.
Member Sanchez.
Member Sanchez.
Oh, me, Member Sanchez.
To vote for this evening.
Sorry. I was looking at you.
I didn't hear your vote. Who are you voting for vice chairman?
I said Member Sanchez.
Oh, didn't hear you. Sorry.
They were laughing. They couldn't hear me.
Member Almond.
Member Sanchez.
By unanimous vote, Member Sanchez has been elected vice chairman of the school board.
Well, it's my honor, and I've already done it physically, to pass the gavel to the chairman, Member Pennick. Yes.
Yes, Superintendent, do you have recommendation on any business?
I do, Chairman, that the School Board of Seminole County appoints Sarita Beeman as Board Secretary, Jill Moramis as Board Clerk, Grace Gonzalez as Deputy Clerk, and Carleen Cole Palmer as Board Parliamentarian for 2021-2022.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And that is the end of this. No?
Nope.
We have two more?
Yep. Calendar.
Oh. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation for calendar under new business?
Yes, Chairman, I do, and it's that the School Board of Seminole County approve the board calendars for 2021-2022.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
any discussion? I apologize. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation under new business for the resolution?
Yes, Chairman, I do, and it's that the School Board of Seminole County reaffirm its Code of Boardsmanship, Resolution 1997-10.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That is the conclusion of this board meeting. Thank you. One more to go. Thank you. Okay.
She has everything scripted.
Oh, it wasn't, though. Last time I had a hearing, it wasn't.
Okay.
We'll get through this.
Get through this. Okay. So I'd like to call to order the Seminole School Board Leasing Corp. Meeting on November 16, 2021. Let the record reflect that all school board members, superintendent, and school board attorney are present. Members, have you all had an opportunity to review the minutes, read the minutes?
Yes.
Objections, any discussion? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation for officer elections?
Yes, I do. It's that the Seminole School Board Leasing Corporation established the newly elected school board chairman and vice chairman as the leasing corporation for president and vice president respectively.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. With no other further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Hey, Grace, can you come up here for a minute?
Congratulations.
Grace, could
We
you
want to
come?
wish you a